Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to another double unboxing. But I don't think I've been quite this excited for a double unboxing before, because inside each of the boxes is the hottest Casio G-Shock release in years. Just when you thought the 2100 series, the Casio Oak, was played out, was yesterday's news, just when you thought you'd seen everything, the regular models, the solar models, the smaller models, the Bluetooth models, Casio go and release the manga models. Two Japan-only 2100s that look hand-drawn. Now, if this sounds like a familiar concept, cast your mind back about a month to my review of the D1 Milano Sketch. Casio uses a very similar technique here to make these watches look more analog, more individual, and frankly, more awesome. Now, before we get into it, you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by buyee.jp, the Japanese proxy buying service. They gave me a voucher to cover some, but not all of the cost of these two. I will, of course, therefore leave a link to Buyee and a discount code off your first order in the description of the video. And to thank them for the voucher, I'm going to spend the next 20 seconds or so telling you about their service. Well, I pretty much already have told you about their service. It's a proxy buying service. You get to shop on Yahoo, Rakuten, Mercari, and even on Amazon in Japan as if you were in Japan. You get to pick from millions of new and used items, just like you would if you were a resident there. Once you've found what you want, you pay Buyee and they buy the item for you. It's shipped to them, they check that it is what you ordered before then shipping it on to you wherever you are in the world. I'll be honest, there are pros and there are cons to using Buyee. The pros are the choice and the price. You can find the deleted, the discontinued, the hard to find stuff, both new and used, and because there's so much choice, you can often find it at great prices. The cons are it's a clunky interface that relies on Google Translate, and it's a bit of a process actually getting the item to you. But if you're struggling to find that JDM watch, or JDM whatever frankly, then you should definitely give Buyee a crack. Alright, two boxes on the table today. Let's flip the camera and get into them. Alright, let's get into them. They even come in their own special manga G-Shock packaging. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not into manga, I'm not into anime, it's just not a hobby or something that I'm particularly interested in. I am into Casio, I am into G-Shock, that's why I bought these. And I bought them because I saw them and I thought they looked fantastic. I knew they were going to be big, I knew they were going to be popular, and I wanted to get a couple in and show them off to all of you. Now, I have had a little look in the boxes, see which is which, so basically start with this one. Not going to be a hugely long video today. It's the standard G-Shock 2100, the battery powered version as well. So fairly simple feature set and function set as you'll see, but here we go. So we have the manga packaging and we have the manga watch. Look at that. I think these are great. Really, really interesting. Really, really unique look. Alright, so the model reference on this white one is GA2100MNG, no prizes for guessing what that stands for, -7AJR. I'll come back to those references in just a second. And as you can see here, it has a full feature set, including that lot. 25,300 yen. I think they were about 180 US dollars when you could buy them. I believe it's not so easy to buy them anymore. What have we got here? We have got the carbon core guard, so yeah, all kind of standard G-Shock stuff. It's not about the features though, this one. It is about the visuals, and check out those visuals. Now, this dotting effect, this dappling effect is known as screen tone. It's a kind of classic technique that they use in manga cartoons. I had to look it up. Like I said, it's not my forte. I'm not pretending that it is. But yeah, it's really cool. Perhaps it doesn't look quite as hand-drawn as the D1 Milanos that I reviewed and then showed you in the intro, but yeah, it doesn't look like your standard G-Shock, does it? And if I switch over to the macro lens to give you a closer look, you can see more inconsistencies, deliberate inconsistencies. Normally I'd be complaining bitterly about the printing of the dial here, but no, in this case it's deliberate. Far, far darker in some areas, far lighter, and deliberately misprinted in other areas, again to add that kind of uniqueness, hand-drawn cartoon style character. Talking of cartoons,
have a look at the speech bubble there that replaces the hand for the day of the week indicator. Very nice. I'm sure you spotted that. I'm sure you also spotted the negative LCD display there. Yeah, barely legible under the vast majority of circumstances. Even when I press the light button, you can still only just see what's in there. Common complaint of all of the G-Shock range, not just this one. But then again, you know, as much as this is a robust and reliable Casio G-Shock watch, it's not necessarily all about practicality, is it today? It really is more about the visual effect. All right then, let's get into the other one. Let's get into the blue one, and then we can do some wrist shots and side-by-side comparisons, and I will obviously talk specifications and dimensions as well. Yeah, there we go. Look at that blue one. I think the blue one was the one I was most interested in just because it's a really nice shade of blue. It's got that big red hand there. But yeah, fantastic looking as well. Now, this one I did note with interest is the GA2100MNG-2AJR. So, -7AJR and -2AJR. Casio always leave themselves a bit of room in their nomenclature. You would think that if they were only ever going to make two of these, they would have called them 1 and 2. But they didn't. They called them 2 and 7, which suggests to me that we might see a few other colour versions in the future. And there we are. There's the blue one. Just as much fun, just as deliberately inconsistent in the way that they have printed the markers and the indices, and just as hard to read anything on that LCD panel as its white brother. I think this one's got a little more contrast. It's got the white G-Shock light protect mode, adjust start, etc, etc, and that speech bubble stands out a bit more than it did on the white one. Let's have a look at the two of them side by side. And there we are, similar but different. What do you think? Which of the two is your preference? Leave me a comment, let me know. And what colour would you like to see Casio do in the future if indeed they do make this manga series a series rather than just a pair of watches? Right, in terms of the basics then, the dimensions and specifications, this is essentially the same as the standard footprint GA2100, so 45mm in diameter, but don't necessarily let that put you off because it's only 11mm thick. Now, at the time, that was the slimmest G-Shock they had ever made. I think the recently released new ones, the kind of elongated ones, are a little bit slimmer, but it still wears quite nicely on my wrist, as you'll see. 48mm lug to lug, again, not bad. Lug width is not applicable. However, the weight, as supplied on the resin band, 52 grams. So it still has plenty of presence, especially in this manga format, but yeah, not a lot of weight. 200 meters of water resistance, that is a flat mineral crystal, which, to be honest, barely looks like it's there until you angle it and catch the light. Does a really good job of pretending it's not there though, doesn't it? And the module in the back is of course a Casio. It's a 5611. How do I know that? Well, I know that because Casio always puts the module reference in a little rectangle there, 5611, next to the Casio name. And as you can see, there's a little bit more manga on the case back. Maybe they could have done something a bit more interesting. Maybe it's a bit more interesting if you actually read Japanese. Usual spec sheet around the outer edge there, screw on stainless steel. You can take these resin bands off, they are replaceable, and there are plenty of mod kits if you do want to tinker around with it. I don't think too many people will be tinkering around with this one though. So then, if this is your first encounter with a Casio G-Shock GA2100, what a first encounter, by the way. What does that 5611 module do? Well, they couldn't have labelled the buttons more clearly, could they? Adjust light, start mode, they really pop off the dial. Let me see if I can angle this tiny negative display to show you what's going on there. As standard, it either duplicates the home time with a permanent ticking second, press the start button, and it gives you the date of the month and the month of the year, again with a permanently ticking second. Now, if for some reason those hands are fouling the LCD, if it's between, say, 17 and 32 minutes past the hour, if you press both the light and mode buttons simultaneously and hold them down, the hands conveniently move out of the way. They stack up there at the 10 past 2. Alright, first press of the mode button and you're into world time mode. Standard Casio world time module here. Cycle through 29 different time zones and 48 different cities by pressing the start button. Next press of the mode, you have a stopwatch. Again, start, stop, and then reset. One more push and you're a countdown timer. One more push and you access the first of 5 alarms. One more push, you're back to the home time. You can adjust them all by holding the adjust button. Double LED in the bottom corner. Now first and foremost, that illuminates that 2-line LCD display, but it also does a decent job of illuminating the entire dial. As you can now see here, there is also a bit of lume on the two main hands. It's not the best lume, to be honest. You are going to be relying on those twin LEDs after dark. But I did not buy this watch for its after dark legibility, nor did I buy it for the countdown timer or the 5 alarms. I bought it because it looks like this. Check that out. It looks ridiculous, but in a fabulous way. Perhaps it doesn't look quite as disconcerting, deliberately disconcerting, as the D1 Milano did. That was meant to look like a bit of paper on your wrist. This is meant to look like a G-Shock on your wrist, but in that kind of unique, identifiable manga style. And they've done a pretty good job of it, I must say. There we are, that's the white one. Perhaps there isn't quite the same level of definition from that yellow hand against the white background. Maybe it needs a black outline there to really pop off the dial in the way that the red hand popped off the blue dial. But then again, maybe this white one is the better choice if you wanted to go with a variety of different outfits. Baby blue perhaps not quite as flexible as white. So take your pick, although I suspect most people, if they had the chance to, bought both. Well, if I am going to do a moans and niggles section, then I really ought to talk once more about the almost complete illegibility of those negative displays. I've looked at negative display 2100s before. I can't remember them being this bad. Maybe they've darkened them down for these manga special editions, or maybe it's because I have changed my lighting setup in the studio. But anyway, a bit of a struggle there, to be honest. I guess the only other moan is their lack of availability. JDM only, so you are using a service like buyee or going to a specific Japanese exporter to get them, and it looks like they're not all that readily available even on those sites and even on those services. Not quite as much of a novelty then as the D1 Milano. I think these ones will hang around in people's collections longer than the Sketch does, partly because of the strength of the G-Shock brand, partly because of the strength of the base watch, the 2100. The only thing that I can see upsetting the owners of these in the future is if Casio do go on to release another 20 or 40 different colour versions, thereby diluting the uniqueness of these two. But in the meantime, I think they're fantastic. Well, go on then, you may as well watch the D1 Milano video while you're here, or my original review of the G-Shock 2100 from back in 2018. Thanks for making it to the end. I'll see you all again in the next one.